The federal government is planning on appealing a court ruling which overturned an order that listed all plastic items as toxic. The court said the rules were unreasonable and unconstitutional. The order was an important step for the Liberals in banning 6 single-use plastic items. The government will now have to introduce new regulations, which could also be argued in court. Joining us now to discuss is Lisa Gu, a senior researcher and analyst with the David Suzuki Foundation. Thanks for joining us today, Lisa. Some environmentalists are sounding the alarm over this ruling. I wonder what the decision is indicating to you.
Well, it's disappointing for sure. And I think taking a step back, the court ruled on the specific ways, like the specific mechanisms used under the Canadian Environmental Protection Act to list manufactured plastic items as toxic, paving the way for regulating their use and, in fact, banning 6 of these items. You know, as this question continues to make its way through the courts, the reality is, the big picture is that Canada and the globe is facing a pollution crisis. We know that plastic production and pollution are at unsustainable levels and increasing. And so, you know, we need, apart from this court ruling, there's an ecological imperative to stop the production and use of non-essential plastics. We need to be doing more to regulate reductions in the production and consumption and waste coming from the plastics industry. This is certainly no time to pull back.
And I'm wondering, too, I know that, you know, we are used to now not getting plastic bags at grocery stores, that sort of thing. We've heard from some major companies across Canada saying, you know what, we're not going to change what we're doing right now. We're going to stick with it. I wonder what you're seeing from kind of the private industry, how that might be dictating how we use plastic going forward.
Well, it's great that you're hearing that, and certainly it would be a huge step backwards if companies, retail from manufacturers to retailers, and even institutions that formerly relied on some of these single-use plastic items and have over the last couple of years made the switch to more sustainable alternatives. It would be a huge step back if we were to revert to plastics. I think, you know, we've seen during the course of this regulation, despite the industry's court challenge, in fact, this was very doable, and the transition has already been made in most cases. And you know, I hope that those retailers do keep the plastic bags out of the checkout lane and all the way up the supply chains. In fact, we need to be looking at expanding the list of single-use plastics that we phase out of consumption.
We know Canada's hosting a conference next year negotiating a global treaty to end plastic pollution. What's standing in the way of world leaders signing this deal?
Well, that's a good question, really, and you know, that it's very ironic that just as there is progress being made to, in fact, potentially ban some of these same items globally through an international treaty, that Canada is now, you know, Canada's own domestic regulations have been, you know, thrown into doubt by this recent court ruling. Certainly, plastic pollution is a global problem. We need to take action at home, but we also need to work at an international level to stop the unsustainable acceleration of plastic production and better manage, you know, and prevent pollution, better manage the waste streams. Under the UN, countries, including Canada, agreed to a 2-year timeline to negotiate a new multilateral environmental agreement to end plastic pollution. That agreement is supposed to be signed and in place by the end of 2024. The most recent negotiation session just wrapped up in Nairobi, Kenya, without any great steps forward, unfortunately. In fact, if anything, some countries who appear to be obstructing progress were successful in adding some very weak options to the negotiations document. Canada is hosting, as you say, the next negotiating session, and will need to take a strong leadership position to ensure that industry interests don't prevail, and that countries do come together under the mandate that the UN gave, that the UN determined to end plastic pollution.
That's Lisa Gu, senior researcher and analyst with the David Suzuki Foundation. Thanks so much for joining us, Lisa.
My pleasure. Thank you.